Today on Locked On Rockies, the deadline, well, it's heating up, but not for the Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today. The intro so good we ran it twice for you all here. This is your daily Colorado Rockies podcast where we are bringing you your daily Rockies talk. We are talking trade deadline today on the Locked On Rockies podcast. There are teams out there going out and making moves. So what do we think for that for the Rockies? What does that mean for the club? Are they going to do anything? And we'll break it all down here on today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. But before we do that, my name is Paul Holden. I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your Rockies coverage here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Proud to be your first listen of the day. We're proud to be on your favorite streaming service as well. All you got to do, just search Locked On Rockies. Today's episode is brought to you by Vroom. With Vroom, you can buy a car entirely online and have it delivered straight to you, so you never have to go to a dealership again. So next time you need to buy a car, just grab your phone, go to vroom.com, and check out thousands of great cars. And if you got your takes on the Rockies trade deadline approach, well, drop them into our live chat here on the YouTube channel. We want to hear from you. We got takes from Twitter already, so we're going to dive into that. Folks, the hot stove is hot. There are plenty of players on the move in the league so far. Trey Mancini is now a member of the Houston Astros. The Yankees go out and make a bunch of moves today to really bolster up with a ton of arms, and all these deals seem to make sense. The cherry on top, or arguably the most important one for the Rockies, the Padres just got a heck of a lot better as they go out and get one of the best closers in the game. And let's start there. These are teams understanding where they're at, and that's on both sides. Look at the Orioles, especially, for example. They're a team that's very much could work their way into a playoff scenario. They could. It's not that far out, especially if you're someone that is holding on to faith that the Rockies have a chance. They move on from a long-time fan favorite, someone who clearly can still produce in Mancini, and they build up an already impressive team when it comes to the farm system and what they're doing for the future. These are teams that understand where they sit in the year 2022. These are teams that understand where their team is at on August 1st, 2022. And you cannot say the same about the Colorado Rockies. This team doesn't have the mindset, the plan, the identity, other than to keep with this. And this adds it to a good point. If the Rockies believe so much in the now, why are we not going for something? Why are they not selling some of these prospects that are they less interested in? Are you less interested in Elehuris Montero because you have CJ Cron? Because if you're going to go and extend CJ Cron and keep him longer, and Jose Iglesias is another example, you're getting in the way of two of your best prospects having the most amount of time to develop. There's really nothing better for those two players than to play the entire second half up with this club. The Rockies should be moving away from some of these vets that are just going to take away playing time on a team where they can go compete, they can go play and contribute on the bigger level as them for pros, and the Rockies can figure out and see what they have when it comes to these prospects. I don't understand why a team with a develop mentality, because this isn't part of the draft and develop is the phrase they like to use, but when they say develop, they love to get in the way of the development of their own players. What does re-signing Iglesias and CJ Cron longer term do for the Rockies when they're, with the current lineup construction, are 11 games below 500, have lost 6 of 7 to the division leading Dodgers, and are out of the wild card, folks? They are 9 games back with the hardest schedule remaining in baseball. Every single thing should be pointing for the Rockies to sell, to be better for even next year, because we know that there's some good pieces. But now we are watching teams with better understandings of where they're at, better mindsets when it comes to that side of the game of baseball, and a more dedicated and just, I just don't know if it's experience. I don't know if it's talent. But I'm excited for Daniel Bard, the person. I really am. I think I think Daniel Bard has one of the cooler stories in baseball, and for him to come in and not only come back to battle the yips in one of the most dangerous places to pitch in all of baseball, but to be successful at doing it is a cool story. But how does Daniel Bard help the Rockies more than trading him for some prospects that could be some prospects that are a little further along? Maybe they're higher up you're not going just way down the line. There's plenty of teams, and we know this. We saw from some beat reporters out there that the Rockies did in fact hear calls for Daniel Bard. Multiple calls for Daniel Bard. I mean, it's Daniel Bard helps the Rockies, sure. But what is Daniel Bard's role, and what is Jose Iglesias' role, and what is CJ Cron's role on a bad to subpar team? Other than just to say, hey, look at some of these guys that we have that are successful. Hey, look at this. We got these pieces here. If things went right, if Chris Bryant wasn't hurt, which again, now we're dealing with a long-term foot injury that's going to be with Chris Bryant for probably the rest of his life, plantar fasciitis. This sucks. It's not a good one. All these teams are making moves, and with the Rockies standing pat, it doesn't help get them closer to contention. You know what gets you closer to contention? Going out and getting a rock solid closer so that when you are in tight games against your division, you're going to be able to turn to one of the best in the business to come out and close out the ball game for you. The Rockies winning games in the middle of September, still 7 games below 500 with Daniel Bard closing them and Jose Iglesias still at short, CJ Cron still at first, and amongst other players that should be at least available to trade if you're the Rockies. Doesn't help them get closer to the playoffs or closer to where Rockies fans want them to be. Trading these players, letting them go pursue championship opportunities on competitive teams this year at the deadline while building for your future, while you actually already have some pieces that are going to help and need more time at the major league level, that is what's going to get you there. But that's not the Rockies' plan. That's not the Rockies' mindset. That's not the Rockies' motto. Rockies fans get to sit through another trade deadline where it seems so obvious what the Rockies should do, but here, in effect, they're going to do the opposite. Doubling down on a team that is 11 losses below 500 at the deadline makes no sense to me, and certainly is not how other teams in this league have operated. Getting some of your reactions to the trade deadline here. But first, got to tell you about some of the folks that make this show possible. And that starts with LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Folks, what's one of the first things people say when you are looking for jobs? Well, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Are you over there on LinkedIn? LinkedIn is just such a resource that you got to have. It's something that everyone is looking for, and you can create a free job posted minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Let's head over to Twitter here, and we're going to get some of the reaction here for the Rockies. And I want to start with today. We got a couple of responses here. We got this from Trevor Salzman over here on Twitter, and he says, been following the deadline all day today and yesterday. It's been crazy the past few days leading up to tomorrow's deadline, but I absolutely believe more is on the table for more trades moving forward. Really wish the Rockies would make a move and not sit on their hands. Moving Iglesias, Colome can get you something at the deadline. What does holding on to them at the deadline do for you? If they don't want to give up Cron or Bart, that's fine. I don't necessarily agree, but at least you have control over those guys. This Rockies team is currently sitting 9 games back of the wild card. They aren't going anywhere. Why aren't moves coming? What makes anyone think that this Rockies team is good enough? No more excuses, no rebuild. Okay, fine. Retool, get prospects, build back for next year. That's from Trevor Salzman there on Twitter. And of course, here we got Jambron. I've talked about him a bit here, but let's dive into his thoughts. If they don't move Iglesias or Colome, there are zero excuses. Iglesias for a lotto ticket A-ball player is fine by me. Return for either doesn't need to be huge. Also, people saying they won't trade Cron and may even be extending him. If that's the case, trade Montero. What's the point? I have no clue what this franchise is thinking if they further extend Cron, especially in context of Montero. Furthermore, if Cron is extended past next year, he interferes with both Montero and Toglia. Wouldn't be the first time the Rockies let a prospect either on the vine, left on the vine behind a vet on a subpar team. Sigh. I think that is the exact mentality that most Rockies fans have to have. I would rather this team embrace what should be these exciting prospects. I want to see Montero, and I want to see Toglia, and I want to see Tovar. I love CJ Cron, sure, but be realistic. And I know he really takes solace in the fact that the Rockies were the team that committed to him, that gave him the extension. But what are you going to do with Montero? He is ready. He needs to be in the majors. He needs to be on the field every single day that he can be, or at least most of the week. Montero needs at-bats. Toglia is going to need at-bats. Tovar is going to need at-bats. What is holding on to these vets going to do for the future of your team if they're not producing at a point where they're getting you in the playoff hunt? I agree completely with Jambron says. Trade Jose Iglesias for anything. You can figure out shortstop for the rest of the year, and Iglesias is going to be able to go to any team and contribute. A lot of playoff teams would be happy to have the Iglesias swing the bat he has, and he's shown that he can bounce around and go around there. And Adrian in the live chat says Loki Gallo for Grichuk, but besides that, sell. That would be honestly an interesting trade. Gallo striking out a ton. It's an interesting one. Someone's going to take a chance on Gallo at some point. Grichuk would also be an interesting trade candidate for the Rockies, but I don't necessarily know if he's going to have the most stuff. But anyone really, if you know who's not going anywhere for the Rockies. Chris Bryant, Ryan McMahon, most of the rotation, other than maybe the back half with Cool and Urania. I mean, they have already said that they might want to extend them. So you kind of have an idea of who is going to be around for the Rockies for the next 3+ years. You're going to see Ryan McMahon play third base or somewhere. You're going to see Chris Bryant DHing out there. You're going to have Charlie Blackmon for a couple more years. At this point, why isn't anyone else in between not an option to be traded for the Rockies to help build for what should be some exciting prospects? Remember, Austin Gomber's in the bullpen because the Rockies don't have any left-handers in the bullpen. The Rockies have no bullpen depth. They have a pitching staff that's bottom in baseball. What about these vets and this roster construction is making the Rockies so confident that they're going to stand pat? I don't know. But how many times have we said the same thing about the Rockies in this situation? There's really no need for the Rockies at all to be not fire sailing. And I'm curious, if you're out there listening as a Rockies fan, would you be more interested in this club if they continued with the same team and kind of the same rate that they were there? Good stretches, bad stretches. The team has just finished below 500 the past couple of months, other than, I believe, May was the exception. June, July, both pretty close. July, they finished one game below 500. I think they were a game or two below 500 there in June. Are you more interested in a Rockies team that stays like this and potentially is going to look pretty similar to next year? Or are you more interested to see what the Rockies have in their prospects, what they see, what they have in Montero, what they have in some of these younger guys? Because not only are the vets taking away from position players, but I believe someone posted this as well, and we're going to dive back into some other tweets as well. After the Bard signing, I got some feedback from Rockies fans as well. But they're also getting in the way of consistent bullpen appearances and consistent bullpen stays for some of your younger relievers or some of your relievers that have gone up and down. Continuing to stay, and as Eric Harper says in the live chat, continuing to be committed to mediocrity is the way of the Rockies. They love a good vet on a good deal that will say nice things about the Rockies and will have a nice resurgence of their career. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy in and do something big for the Rockies and the betterment of this team in the future. They kind of have really what feels like blinders on when it comes to that. This team was more active in the offseason than they were ever. And now they're reaching another point where they can be active again and be aggressive. But again, they're leaving people stuck scratching their heads. This team is far out from competition this year. Build for the future where you have promise. There is promise on this team. There is. When you look at the way the Rockies have performed against the NL West and you look at the way that they have performed against some of the opponents, there are things to be excited, especially for some of the key foundational pieces. But this is a time, right now is a time for the Rockies. They have another opportunity to bring a refresh, to bring a change, to bring new life into this organization. But they are going to continue to stick with a coaching staff that has let them down and regressed this team, and players that aren't contributing enough to put them in a competitive window and aren't getting them over the hump into the wild card, into the race. So what's the plan? What's the point? Why are the Rockies doing this? Why do we have to be, as Rockies fans, treated to the same narrative for the Rockies that no one understands what on earth they're doing? There are plenty of teams that you can get solid packages of. You can trade away a lot of vets that can go in, and for them, they can go and play on different teams, more successful situations, and play some playoff ball. And if you're CJ Cron, you already got your contract. It doesn't matter really where you are. You got your guaranteed money. Iglesias and Colomé, they're free agents. Do we know for sure they're going to come back? What happens when you let a player walk? That's what we talked about all last week. There were the prime examples of Rockies' mistakes at the trade deadline and the pitfalls they could try to avoid. But instead, here we are, the day before the deadline. The Padres have made a big move. The Dodgers make a move to clear up some of that roster, stuff, and still are in contention for Juan freaking Soto. And the Rockies have only re-signed Daniel Bard, and they seem committed to this team that if you look at it statistically, if you look at it record-wise, if you look at it in multiple ways, and if you look at it from an outside perspective, and not because you love this team like I know so many of us do, we are again sinking in the quicksand of a front office with no plan, with a team with no true identity and path forward, and a team that wants to be a continuous head scratcher for the rest of the league. There are teams that want to trade with you, Colorado. Let's make some moves. It's not working right now. Hello? Bottom of the NL West. Bottom statistically in rotation, bottom in offensive categories, being shut out at home, being beat at home. All of the stuff that works for the Rockies is not working this year. It's time for a change, and stuff like the trade deadline is exactly the way to do it. But here we are yet again. And what is the big thing that we all can fall back on and know? Guess what Purple Row tweeted out before? The Rockies are 5th in attendance. People love the Rockies. People love Coors Field. Yes, it doesn't feel that way with people most of the time. With the Dodgers in town, it's Dodger Stadium East. But this team and this area and the market and Rockies fans are desperate for a Rockies team and a Rockies front office to develop an organizational structure and the organization, a change in the philosophy and the mentality of how this team operates. But can we expect ahead of the 2022 trade deadline? It's the same old Rockies, time and time again. Let's get some more fan reaction from the re-signing of Daniel Bard. But hey, there's going to be more trade deadline action going on tomorrow across the Locked On Podcast Network. I hope I'm going to be able to hop on and talk Rockies inactivity, but we are going to be having all sorts of good stuff. We are going to have rapid reactions. If the Rockies do make any moves, we'll be on it. But there's going to be tons of great stuff going across the Locked On Podcast Network tomorrow for the trade deadline. So don't miss out if you are interested in some what other teams are doing, what division rivals are doing, and what the Rockies are doing here as well. You can find us at Locked On Rockies. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and yes, even golf. BetOnline, that's betonline.net, continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. And I believe you've got some fun trade props that you can go check out there at betonline.net. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hope you guys like the new look here too. If you're on the YouTube channel, we got a nice new background, new backdrop, and we've got tons of fan interaction here today. Eric Harper says, if you get to bring in any one player, who does everyone want? I'm gonna continue to say this because as long as the Rockies live in Fantasyland, I'm gonna keep living in Fantasyland. The Rockies should play a boatload of money in the offseason to get Aaron Judge to play outfield for the Rockies. If I was to just answer Eric's question, if I could go for one player that the Rockies that is in a chance for, get a deal somehow done that the Rockies could end up with Aaron Judge. But Michael Disney says, got to freshen up the lineup for a bullpen upgrade. No lead is ever safe. That's exactly correct. And you know what? There's definitely someone out there, someone you could take a chance on if you're for a trade with Jose Iglesias. CJ Cron would definitely bring you back someone that can help your bullpen as well. There are plenty of pieces that you could move as well. Could you trade a Garrett Hampson? Could you trade a Sam Hilliard? They might not get much, but then you can start packaging them together and you can take lottery tickets on some other young players. Again, Jambron's point of I will take an Iglesias trade for a lottery ticket A-ball player as well, just because then it opens up a spot for the Rockies to get creative and bring up some of the players that they already have on their in their system. Let's go back here from the tweet that I sent out here from when the Rockies re-signed the Daniel Bard signing. Stephen Cross says, meh, happy for Bard. I'm okay with it because we need a closer, but other than that, not a huge fan. Dylan says, ask again after the deadline. Right now it's weird, but if they move off other pieces like Colomé and DFA Chacin, it makes sense to have a mentor for young relievers like Lawrence and Fernandez to be promoted permanently. That's a good point. That's interesting. I haven't heard anything about the Rockies DFAing Chacin, but it certainly could be possible as he doesn't pitch a ton, and when he has, it hasn't been great. Nick here says, N205 says, if we are really pushing to build around Bryant in the next few years, I'm a fan. Just have to wait and see. And Caleb Cole says, blow it up. And then, of course, our other two friends are some of our top tweeters we got here. Trevor Salzman says, I wish they would seriously look to trade Bard, Coleman, Iglesias, and Crone. This team is stuck in the middle and have no sense of direction. Why not move some of these guys and get back prospects to help replenish the farm system and move forward with the young team? All Rockies fans want is a sense of direction, rebuild. It's fine. Every team has to do it at some point in time. I don't know what Schmidt sees in this team. They are not going to make the playoffs, and they probably will miss out on an opportunity to cash in on some players. Makes no sense. Jan Braun says, just another brick in the incompetent front office and ownership wall. Every team who would have traded a 37 closer at peak value if they were in the Rockies' shoes, but those GMs also had to interview for their positions. Says it all. I mean, I'm glad that there's some optimism in there. I'm glad that I appreciate Rockies fans' loyalty to the core, and there's some players that are excited and think that this move helps build around someone like Bryant. But right now, the way we're seeing it and the current timeline that I see for the Rockies, I just think it would have been better to trade Bard. I'm again happy for Bard the player. I think it's really his story is one of the coolest that have been in baseball. The Rockies have been a home to a host of those, and I'm very glad it's paid out for him there. But for the Rockies in this timeline and this current construction, I think the best move would have been to sell. Kind of been the theme that we've talked about on the last few episodes here, Locked on Rockies. But we'll see what tomorrow brings. The Rockies do play baseball tonight, and they will be taking on the Padres, who just got better tonight as well. That is a 5:40. A 7:40 start time there in Mountain Time. Rockies, Padres. Let's see if the Rockies can continue their good play against the dreaded San Diego Padres. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Again, trade deadline action coming to you all day long tomorrow across the Locked On Podcast Network, so don't miss out. Anything crazy breaks here, we'll keep you updated here on the Twitter at LO Rockies or right here on YouTube, Locked On Rockies. Follow the show at LO Rockies on Twitter. And like I said, so we don't miss out on anything tomorrow, you can follow me at Paul Holden 33. Until next time, folks, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies